Hey everybody, I'm Seth V for the Knife Center, and welcome back to Knife AQ, the show where we answer all your knife questions, whether they are sharp or dull. Today we're talking best multi-tools for mountain bikers, smaller fixed blades for a companion blade, and the most pressing question of all, what was our first real knife? Ta-da! Thanks for joining us today. This is episode 177. Hope you're having a great Saturday. If you're watching this on the day that it's uploaded, let's kick things off with kind of a softball question, but one that I think is still pretty interesting. Ezekiel Knopf.
You don't read these names?
That's why we don't read them. The question reads, hello DCA, Thomas, and Seth.
That's
Hey.
us. -1.
-1. I wanted to know what your first real knife was. Thank you. I love your content. Yeah, thanks again. Appreciate the question. Two things. First of all, I think it's interesting that you use the phrase real knife because I know what you mean, but it's a little tricky to pin down exactly what that is when you sort of start thinking about it. Because I asked Thomas, for example, we were sitting at our desks, what was his first knife? And his immediate answer was the Leatherman Skeletool. And my immediate response was, that doesn't count. So I'm curious to hear if you, the commenters, agree with me. But I feel like a real knife has to be a dedicated pocket knife, something that is a little more boutique or special or an elevated knife. You see what I mean? It's a little hard to define, but I think we all know what we're talking about when we talk about real knives. Well, let's jump to my answer, which for me was the Spyderco Dragonfly. It was not this exact Dragonfly. This is the Zome version with VG10 steel, comes in at $78.75. Mine was actually the old ZDP 189 version, but in any case, I still think this is a great first knife, and I'll tell you kind of the reason why I picked it. So I did know that I wanted to get a real knife. I had had several other knives throughout my life, things that just sort of were around, you know, an old Buck 110 that I found on the top of a refrigerator, a Gerber paraframe that was lent to me and never recovered.
You scoundrel.
But this was the first one I spent my money on that I kind of like thought very hard about what I wanted a knife to do. So yeah, my first real knife. The size was very appealing to me. I think if you're just starting out, it took a bit of convincing initially at first. Seems crazy to think now, but I wasn't sure that I was gonna want to carry a pocket knife every day, you know? 10, 15 years ago, it just wasn't a part of my habit, and I knew I needed a cutting tool. I was finding myself needing one, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to dedicate the pocket space. So a small knife was a good sort of first little foot in the pool of the world of pocket knives. It was very easy to carry. It was lightweight. It was my first experience with the wire pocket clip. Still one of the best out there, in my opinion. It works great on all different types of pants. It doesn't tear things up. A good introduction to pocket knives includes a good pocket clip, and I think this satisfies that. I liked the ergonomics of this thing, the way that it was still quite small, but gave me, with this finger choil, a little more space to fit in my hand. And the blade geometry was outstanding. I mean, I was sort of interested in metallurgy. I wanted to try the high-end ZDP 189 steel, but even VG10 is going to be a noticeable upgrade if all you've experienced is, you know, your gas station knives, your hardware store knives, your utility blades. I know I was impressed with the way that my Dragonfly first cut, and yeah, I think it's still a great first knife. As for Thomas, I'll let him speak for himself. This is the ZT55. Why did you choose this one?
Well, it was being discontinued and I liked how it looked.
Bingo. Sometimes That's all it takes. A little FOMO helps get across the finish line. But yeah, you know, the Skeletool, I want to give it to you. That's a real tool. That's a something you can live with for the rest of your life.
Or at least 8 years.
Yeah. With that warranty, you know, Leatherman will take care of you for, what is it, 25? Pretty sweet. But this is the first dedicated pocket knife that Thomas ever picked up. And whereas I just dipped my foot in the pool, I think Thomas jumped in the deep end with this thing. Because not only is it pretty big, with, I don't know, 3.5 inches of blade, it's also one of the wildest designs ZT has ever made. You know, looks like a stealth bomber, got this 2-stage flipper tab, quite a showpiece, quite a conversation starter, really cool first knife, and it goes to show you don't have to take it easy at first. You can go a little crazy.
It's actually a terrible first knife.
Oh yeah? Why is that?
You just can't buy it anymore.
Oh, fair. All right, let's move on to the next question. Hi, David. I live next to a forest and I go mountain biking daily. What is a good multi-tool for a biker? Thanks. Okay, this was an interesting question. It got my wheels turning at least.
Nice.
See what I did there? I actually used to be pretty passionate about bicycles. Back in my early adulthood, it really was my only way of getting around. I built a couple of bikes from scratch. I had some basic skills to maintain them. I did some roadside fixes. So this question hit close to home because it's something I would have really liked to have known the answer to before I got that flat on the side of the road. So I think key to the answer here is a good selection of drivers. A lot of multi-tools got you covered with the basics, like this Victorinox Swiss tool. This is the Spirit X. You know, you got your pliers for pulling and tweaking and pinching things. Great selection of just other openers and cutters here in the handles. The nice thing about this Victorinox is every tool kind of opens individually and locks into place. Got a nice selection of drivers here, you know, your Phillips, your standard, a couple sizes of it, bottle opener, etc. One tool I think that is going to be handy for a bike mechanic is actually a metal file. Occasionally, you know, you might need to knock off a burr or file something down to size. A good metal file is going to come in handy. Not super essential, but worth having on hand, I think. But the reason I picked this more than its tool selection or the fact that it's a Swiss Army tool comes, this version at least, with this bit kit. Now, this bit kit is kind of special, actually. We sell them individually now, which is sort of a special request that we made because this is, in my opinion, the very best portable bit kit out there. You know, it comes with a selection of bits right out of the box, with some space for more, which I think is key. Your bicycle is going to have its own selection of different sized hex heads, probably some Torx in there. So that'll allow you to get the bits that you need to take care of your machine. And also it has this fantastic driver here. Two-sided, so that you can either do some kind of low torque applications for tweaking something small, like your brake levers or something, and large torque applications for when you need to break something loose or really wrench it tight. The way that the bits fit in here is quite nice. It's not magnetic, but it does have a little spring ring for retention, so they stay put. They're not gonna fall to the road and clatter away from you. Yeah, if you want, you can get this bit kit separately. It's lightweight, you know, easy to tuck under the seat in a toolkit. In fact, if you do want to go that route and just get the bit kit, you can even get this version, which has a ratcheting driver. You put the bit in one way, and you've got tightening ratchet, and then there's no reversal kind of mechanism on the tool here. You just push the bit out and put it in the other way. Now you're loosening. Yeah, really clever design. You know, they simplified things. Still allowed you to use the ratchet both ways. And the other side, you got your kind of fine control driver here. This thing is awesome. I'm glad they sell it separately because I bought one, I guess. So I think it's worth having. I think it's a great addition to any toolkit, and its size makes it a great option for your bike, I think. One other tool I wanted to mention is the Leatherman Signal. So you mentioned you're a mountain biker. I presume you're going to be out on some trails, maybe at a cell service kind of far away. And in those situations, I think having a little bit of survival capability makes a bit of sense. So the Signal gets you that with its ferro rod here for fire starting. You've got, Leatherman's excellent pliers. I actually quite like these pliers because even though the tool is not one of Leatherman's smaller tools, the pliers heads actually come to a pretty nice needle point there for some precision kind of pinching, pulling on cables, whatever you need to do. The Signal will get it done. And plus you'll have that peace of mind from the fire stool, the diamond sharpener in case you need to sharpen something. This has, of course, a blade and a wood saw, which is not so much for the bike, but I don't know. You might need it out there on the trails, getting through maybe a branch that's come across. You need to move that, get it out of the way. Can come in handy. It's not the lightest tool, but you do also get this hammering surface here, which, percussive maintenance is always a thing. So yeah, I like the Signal as an answer for this. And the cool thing about the Leathermans is they have their own bit kit solution. Their proprietary bits may not be the right fit for your bike if you can't find exactly the right size hexes or whatever, but they do also offer this. This is the Leatherman Bit Driver Extender, and it fits right into any of the tools that have the kind of skinny bits, but they accommodate regular hex head bits. So you can use any generic kit with this, anything that fits your bike, and with the extender, you've got a little bit more reach to this thing, so you need to get in there, get something done. This bit driver, a little awkward when it's all unfolded. The Signal doesn't have the most natural, driving type of ergonomics when it's closed up, but this would get the job done, and you don't even need to use it in the holder. You could use it just as a sort of precision driver too. So I don't know. I think it's an option worth considering. Now, if you're really, really trying to save ounces here, as I know a lot of cyclists like to do, I have one more suggestion. The true minimalist option, and that is these multi-tools from Tour. These just actually came in. They're pretty new, and I like the capabilities that you get with this. We've got one in titanium here and one in stainless steel, and I'll tell you why I pulled both in a minute, but let's just check out the feature set. First of all, we have a pry bar, which is going to be essential for getting, a tire off of a rim. Maybe even could buy two and kind of use them as your tire bars to get things going. You've also got that bit driver capability. Storage for one bit here. It's held in by these kind of rubber bands. It doesn't have everything you need, but at least you have something. You can see there that that's the hex head for driving the bit. You've also got a bottle opener and even this kind of set of wrenches here. That's not going to work for every nut that is on your bike, but probably going to work for some of them, which is good to have. And I really like that this is offered in both steel and titanium. So if you're really, really trying to save your ounces, you could go for the titanium. The titanium ones are $50, steel's $35. If it was me, I would go with the steel. The weight difference is not that much really, and the steel's going to give you more strength, especially if you really are trying to torque something with a bit in that driver. The titanium is just going to reach a point where the material starts to bend. That's going to happen with steel too, but it is just much stronger than titanium, so you're going to be able to get more out of it. And if this was my only tool, I know I would want the strongest option available. So there's your mountain biking multi-tools. Hope that helped. Next up, we have a question from Doug Nicholson 4345, who says, "Hey everyone, enjoy the show as always." Thank you. "I'm in need of a small fixed blade knife as a companion to my SE6, right here, that I use for camping, bushcraft, and bug out practice. What I really need is something with a thinner profile, 2.5 to 3.5 inch blade for easier cutting than a large knife, $200 max budget." Yeah, this was a cool question. Interesting to me because, well, kind of a challenge, in fact, because the SE6 is such a well-balanced all-arounder that it was kind of hard for me to figure out what would be a good companion to this. You know, if you haven't seen the kind of buying a survival knife video that Thomas and I just shot, check that out where I sing the SE6's praises at length, but it does so much good stuff. You know, it's long enough to be a survival knife. It has a full flat grind for good cutting geometry, for solid slicing. The handle is comfortable, well-sized for all sorts of grips. Even got the finger choil to choke up and make it perform a little bit like a smaller knife. So yeah, I think there are kind of two ways to go with this. Because the SE6 does so much, because it has quite good slicing capability for such a large and tough knife, I would suggest going much smaller with your companion blade. So you get something that's noticeably different, something that's gonna not just be kind of a smaller companion knife, but offer a different balance of skills. So here's what I came up with. First, you could go with a kind of a bird and trout knife. And for that, I went with the White River small game knife. These are $160 with S35 VN steel and a selection of micarta handles. I like the precision that you get with this. You know, you mentioned something with a thinner profile, and a bird and trout knife definitely gets you there. One thing that's going to help with those finer tasks is the much narrower blade profile of this thing. So, you know, it's going to be easier to get into tight spaces. The blade is thinner than that SE, so it is going to slice a little better through, I don't know, game processing or whatever it is you're doing out there. I like that most bird and trout knives like this have a full-sized handle still. I don't know that I would necessarily compromise on that for a precision knife. Even though the blades are smaller, having that full-size handle allows you to control it that much better. For the money, I really like what White River does. Check out the contouring on this handle. Beautiful shape there, quite a dramatic shapeliness to it. Feels amazing in the hand. Plenty of real estate to grip, even a little bit extra if you want to come up in a pinch grip here. The blade is short enough at just 2.6 inches to easily come over the tip there and protect that if you're poking into something you might not want to actually pierce. Yeah, a bird and trout knife is a great option for you, I think, and this is one of the best bird and trouts on the market. The other direction you could choose to go in, I think, is a Scandi ground blade. Something small, something great for carving and whittling tasks that are going to get you much more precision when you're working with wood. And I have two options for you. The first one is the Tops Mini Scandi knife, MSK Survival, they call it. These are $127 with $10.95 steel. I really like the Tops MSK. It doesn't have that full-sized handle, but you've got a few more ergonomic features here to lock you into place, and I don't find myself missing that real estate all that much. I still have enough meat there in the handle to kind of get a full-fisted grip and power through. If you were to tie a lanyard on the end there, I think you'd have an even better time with it. And yeah, the finger scallops keep it locked into position if you are trying to move carefully through some carving. The Scandi grind here has a little bit of a secondary edge, but not a true secondary bevel, so it's still gonna have that precision for woodwork. If what you want to do with your small knife involves more woodwork, I would definitely point you towards a Scandi knife over a bird and trout. And I think this is a great USA-made option. And the other way you could go is with a true Scandinavian Scandi ground knife. This is the Castrum Sweden number 8 classic carving knife. Only $40 here, which is nice to save some money on your companion when you've already spent your money on the larger SE6. It's got carbon steel blade, birchwood handles, a little leather sheath here without any way to mount it, so you're gonna have to figure that one out for yourself or just toss it in a pack like this. But yeah, this is your true carving superstar. Look how narrow that blade profile gets. That tip is gonna get into tiny little spaces, you know, curving things, taking little curls off the inside of a spoon or some sort of other challenging project you might be working on. You got the handle, the traditional Scandi handle, simple, big enough to fit in, to fill your grip. And check out that blade stock. It's the thinnest fixed blade on the table. You know, compared to the MSK Survival, you can see that this one is going to be that much better at carving. And it's thin enough that this could even do a little bit of slicing too. I mean, there's no one to say that a Scandi knife can't slice well. It just isn't perfectly optimized for it. So I think this one is going to be a pretty good companion. Definitely going to get you a different kind of set of features than the SE6. Okay, let's move on to our lightning round now. First question is, hey KnifeCenter, it seems like everyone is after super steels that cut forever these days. Could you recommend a folder that prioritizes toughness instead of edge retention? I don't mind sharpening, but I dislike chipped edges. I'm looking for something around 3 inches, give or take, and under $250 that can take some abuse. Thanks. Okay, I think there's really one best answer to this question right now. The Demco 8020.5 with our exclusive 3V blade steel. It is one of the only folders on the market with 3V steel, and that fact alone puts it way ahead of most of the competition. I mean, 3V is tougher than Crewwear, it's tougher than MagnaCut, tougher than 4V. It's really up there in terms of toughness. So if that's what you're after, go for something with 3V, and this Demco Shark Lock is gonna have the, it's built tough outside of the blade to kind of back up the toughness of 3V. You've got 3.2 inches of blade, a little over what you were asking for, but I think this still fits the bill. The Shark Lock is strong and ambidextrous, fidget friendly too, which is always nice to have on a folder. And yeah, just a great design. These are on sale now at the moment too. $175 gets you into some sweet 3V steel. Next question. Hello DCA and KC. I'm a big fan of the Buck Ranger 112. That's this knife right here. The blade shape is still useful and versatile to this day. Agreed. Although not very fidgety due to its backlock. Agreed. Do you have any suggestions for any similar modern knives to this icon? Thanks. As soon as I saw the new Benchmade Mini tagged out, I thought of this question. So as you can see, there are some family similarities here. The size, the blade shape, the kind of curvature to the handle. I think the Mini tagged out is something of an heir to the Buck 112's throne. It doesn't have the handsome good looks of the Buck 112 in quite the same way, but I still think it's a pretty good looking knife. You can pick any of the 3 versions. I think they start at $170. This one is the middle of the range with S45 VN steel, comes in at $260. But yeah, if you're looking for fidget friendliness, the Axis Lock is going to get you there. You got a pocket clip, you got a thumb stud. It's got all the features of a modern knife, but with a bit of the Buck 112's charm and vibe. The other option I want to give you is something a little more affordable, the Concept Reverie. This is a Justin Lundquist design, and this version comes in at just $68.40 on sale right now. This has 154 cm steel, and let me hold it up next to the Buck 112. It's a little further maybe, but the silhouettes are kind of doing the same thing. The handle has that same curvature to it. The Reverie even has a bit of a bolstered look too, so I think they're picking up on some of the same style cues. And the fidget friendliness here is definitely a factor. It's got one of those lighter wheel style flipper tabs to flick open easily. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty addictive to operate that blade deployment. And I like the ergonomics of this too. You've got a somewhat compact handle, but no guard or anything to get in the way of your fingers utilizing all of that real estate. So it's still a very, utility-focused design, even though you've got some cool style and modern features to go with it. Next question comes from Ben Athens 3294, who asks, what is the best angle to sharpen a Scandi grind, such as a Mora? Thanks, Ben. This one really is a lightning round question because the answer is super simple. What angle do you use? The Scandi grind will tell you. I actually like to recommend Scandi grinds for kind of learning how to sharpen by hand, because you just want to match the angle of that Scandi grind. Put it on a stone, push it up until you feel it stop. There you are, that's your angle. You're on the Scandi grind. It really instructs you how to move on the stone. You'll feel it if it deviates from that angle. You'll feel it kind of rock back or forward. It's such a wide patch here that you're kind of matching on the stone. It's just got great feedback. Give it a shot if you haven't tried hand sharpening before. A Scandi grind will kind of instruct you and help you along your way. If you're using a fixed angle system, just go for the Sharpie trick and color in the entire Scandi grind and then match the angle to that. So yeah, follow the Scandi grind's instructions and you'll be at the right angle.
Follow the Yellowvic grind.
Okay, it's time for the last and most serious question of the day, which is actually not a question this time. It's more of a statement. The only thing I seen there today I wanted was Thomas's Triscuits. For that, I don't know. We don't sell Triscuits, so I don't know what to tell you, man. Cheers.
Get your own.
Oh.
You just paired Triscuits with coffee.
That wasn't the best. Well, that's it for this week's show. Thanks for sticking with us. If you have any questions, remember to leave them in the comments. This show runs on your questions. We really appreciate it. So any burning thoughts, hit that comment section. We read through everything. And remember, if you want to get your hands on any of these knives or multi-tools, but not Triscuits, click the links in the description. They'll take you to KnifeCenter.com. And remember about our Knife Rewards program too, because if you're going to put any of your money down on any of these sweet tools, you might as well get some free money to spend on your next one. With that, I've been Seth V. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we will see you next time.
Give me my Triscuits back.